The Talaxian alien scum murdered Roger Baker's innocent boy, not knowing the ex-Special Forces soldier would burn their whole species to ash. Roger glared at the hulking reptilian leader Ymir through eyes nearly swollen shut from their fists. He yanked against the electro-cuffs, searing his flesh. The Talaxian ship's lights flickered from a distant explosion. "Give the codes to disable Earth's defense grid," Ymir roared, shoving a flickering hollow image of Roger's son Max in his face. "Or the child dies." "Fuck you!" Roger hawked a bloody loogie on Ymir's clawed feet. The coppery taste of his own blood flooded his mouth. "I'll never betray Earth." Ymir's lizard eyes narrowed. He crushed the hollow projector in his fist, blue sparks showering to the deck. "The boy will suffer for your stupidity, mammal." Another blast rocked the ship. Ymir and his guards stumbled. Roger heaved his augmented muscles and snapped the cuffs like dry twigs. He launched at the aliens, smashing armored skulls with blistering speed. He snatched a guard's plasma pistol and sprinted to the escape pods, activating his subdermal radio. "Max, run, Talaxians coming for you," Roger screamed. On Earth, Max played on swings, oblivious to danger. Cloaked Talaxians emerged from bushes, plasma rifles humming. Roger's voice crackled through Max's radio earpiece. The boy's eyes widened. He jumped from the swing. Searing plasma bolts flashed. Silence. Somewhere in space, Roger's escape pod streaked towards the blue planet, dread clenching his heart. The Talaxians made a fatal mistake. Humanity's super soldier would avenge his son. Their cities would burn. Their children would scream. Their species would end. Roger's stolen escape pod streaked through the sky, trailing flames as it plummeted towards the park. The pod smashed into the ground, crumpling like a tin can. Roger kicked open the cracked door, ignoring the searing heat from the wreckage. He stumbled out, his head pounding, his vision blurred. But one thought consumed him: Max. He raced across the park, his heart hammering against his ribs. When he reached the swings, he froze. Max stood over the bodies of 3 Talaxian assassins, their armor smoldering from plasma burns. The boy's eyes glowed an eerie blue, tendrils of energy crackling around his small frame. "Max, what happened? How did you—" Roger whispered, his voice hoarse with disbelief. Max turned to face his father, his expression oddly calm. "I don't know, Dad. When they shot at me, something inside me just woke up." Roger's mind reeled. He had been genetically engineered to be a super soldier, but he never imagined his son would inherit those abilities. He pulled Max into a tight hug, relief washing over him. But the moment was short-lived. The Talaxians would soon discover their kill team's failure and come hunting for them both. Roger activated his secure comm line. "General Graves, this is Baker. We have a situation." "Baker, what the hell is going on down there?" Graves demanded, his voice gruff. Roger quickly briefed him on the Talaxian attack and Max's newfound powers. Graves was silent for a moment, processing the information. "Baker, this is bigger than just you and your boy," he said finally. "The Talaxians have been testing our defenses for months, looking for a way to cripple Earth before launching a full-scale invasion. We need you back in the fight." Roger hesitated, torn between his duty and his son's safety. But Max spoke up, his voice filled with a wisdom beyond his years. "Dad, we have to help. If the Talaxians win, nowhere will be safe for us. I'm not afraid. I'm ready to fight like you." Roger nodded, his resolve hardened. "All right, General, we're in. What's the plan?" The scene shifted to a top-secret military base hidden deep in the mountains. Roger and Max were briefed on their mission: infiltrate a Talaxian stronghold on the moon and steal the plans for their invasion fleet. It was a suicide mission, but one that only a human super soldier and his son had a chance of completing. As they suited up in advanced stealth gear, Roger turned to Max. "Stay close, son. We're going to finish this together." Max nodded, his eyes still glowing with that eerie blue light. They boarded a sleek black spacecraft, its engines humming with power. The ship lifted off, streaking towards the stars, towards the Talaxian stronghold on the moon. Roger and Max checked their weapons, the weight of their mission heavy on their shoulders. They knew the odds were against them, but they were ready to take the fight to the enemy, to save their world, no matter the cost. The sleek black spacecraft sliced through the inky void, its hull barely reflecting the starlight. Inside, Roger and Max sat in tense silence, their stealth suits humming with power. The Talaxian stronghold loomed before them, a menacing fortress carved into the lunar rock. With a soft thud, the ship docked at an airlock. Roger and Max slipped out, ghosting through the shadows. They crept through twisting corridors, dodging patrols and skirting security cameras. Roger's augmented senses were on high alert, his muscles coiled, ready to strike. At last they reached the base's mainframe. Max's fingers flew over the holographic interface, his eyes flickering with lines of code. Suddenly, he froze, his face draining of color. "Dad, look at this," he whispered, his voice trembling. Roger leaned in, his blood running cold as he read the files. The Talaxians weren't just planning an invasion, they were plotting genocide. Ymir, their leader, had whipped his people into a frenzy of hatred, convincing them that humans were a plague to be wiped out. "We have to stop them," Max said, his jaw tight. Roger nodded grimly. "Download the plans, we're getting out of here." They turned to go, but a voice cut through the darkness. "Going somewhere, mammals." Ymir stepped from the shadows, flanked by a phalanx of elite guards. Their plasma rifles hummed with deadly intent. Roger and Max moved as one, leaping into action. They became a blur of motion, fists and feet flying, stealth suits shimmering as they absorbed the plasma blasts. Max's powers surged, a wave of force sending Talaxians crashing into the walls. But Ymir was relentless. He zeroed in on Max, seeing the boy's growing strength as the true threat. Roger leapt between them, engaging the alien leader in a deadly dance of blades and claws. They traded blows, Roger's augmented strength matched by Ymir's savage ferocity. Plasma blades hissed and spat, claws tore at flesh. Roger felt his strength waning, his wounds taking their toll. Just as Ymir's blade arced towards his throat, a shimmering dome of energy sprang up around him. Max stood with his hands outstretched, his eyes blazing with power. Together, father and son pushed back against Ymir, forcing him to retreat. But the Talaxian had one last card to play. "If I can't have this base, no one can," he snarled, slamming his fist on a console. A klaxon blared. "Self-destruct sequence initiated. Base will detonate in T-minus 60 seconds. Roger grabbed Max's hand. "Run!" They sprinted through the crumbling corridors, dodging falling debris and gouts of flame. With seconds to spare, they hurled themselves into an escape pod, punching the eject button as the base exploded behind them. As they drifted in the silence of space, waiting for extraction, Roger turned to his son. "You saved my life back there, Max. I'm proud of you." Max managed a tired smile. "We saved each other, Dad. That's what family does." But even as they savored their victory, they knew their mission was far from over. The invasion plans were in their hands, but they still had to warn Earth and gather allies against the coming storm. The fate of humanity hung in the balance. The sleek black ship sliced through Earth's atmosphere, its hull still scorched from the battle on the moon. Roger and Max, exhausted but determined, strode into the United Nations chamber, their footsteps echoing on the marble floor. The world leaders fell silent as General Graves activated the holoprojector, the stolen Talaxian invasion plans flickering to life. Murmurs of disbelief and horror rippled through the room as the scale of the threat became clear. "This isn't just an invasion," Roger said, his voice grave. "It's genocide." "How can we trust you?" the Russian ambassador demanded. "You're just a soldier, and that boy—" "That boy is the reason you're all still alive," General Graves growled. "And if we don't act now, none of us will be for much longer." He laid out the plan, a preemptive strike, a team of super soldiers leading Earth's most advanced warships against the Talaxian fleet. The council members exchanged glances, the weight of the decision heavy in the air. "It's a risk," the American president said, but it's one we have to take. One by one, the leaders nodded their assent. Earth's defenses mobilized, a planet united against a common foe. Roger and Max boarded the flagship, a marvel of human ingenuity and alien technology. The super soldiers, each handpicked for their unique abilities, prepped for battle, their faces grim with resolve. As they approached the Talaxian fleet, a strange signal crackled through the comm system. A hologram shimmered to life, revealing a council of beings from across the galaxy. "People of Earth," the leader spoke, its voice resonating with power. "We have seen the Talaxian threat and we stand with you. Our technology, our knowledge are yours." Roger felt a surge of hope. With the Galactic Council at their side, they stood a chance. The battle erupted in a blaze of plasma and fire. Roger and Max fought their way through the Talaxian ranks, their augmented speed and strength cutting a path to the flagship. They burst onto the bridge, weapons drawn, and froze. Ymir stood before them, his eyes burning with a hatred born of loss and pain. "You humans," he snarled, "you destroy everything you touch." As they clashed, plasma blades sparking, Ymir's words poured out like venom. A human colony, a misunderstanding, a world burned to ash. His species, once proud and vibrant, reduced to scattered refugees. Roger, even as he parried and struck, felt a flicker of understanding. "Ymir, wait. It doesn't have to be like this. We can find a way, make things right." But Ymir lunged, his blade slicing the air. "You can never make this right!" The Talaxian leader's eyes widened as Max stepped forward, energy crackling around his small frame. The boy's power surged, the very fabric of the ship bending to his will. Ymir's scream of rage turned to one of fear as the reactor core ruptured, a blinding light engulfing the bridge. Roger grabbed Max, shielding him as they leapt into an escape pod, the flagship exploding behind them in a searing ball of plasma. Across the battlefield, Talaxian ships fell from the sky, their formation crumbling. Earth's forces pressed the advantage, the tide turning with each passing moment. As the Talaxian flagship erupted in a searing ball of plasma, the remaining alien ships scattered in disarray. Earth's forces and the Galactic Council seized the moment, pursuing the fleeing vessels with relentless determination. Roger and Max led the charge, their stealth ship darting through the chaos. They hunted down each Talaxian craft, disabling engines and weapons with precision strikes. One by one, the alien ships surrendered or were reduced to drifting husks. With the immediate threat neutralized, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from 100 worlds filled the grand chamber, their faces etched with a mix of anger and relief. "The Talaxians must pay for their crimes," the ambassador from Zephyrus Prime demanded, slamming his fist on the podium. "They would have exterminated us all." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room. Roger watched, his jaw tight as the debate grew heated. Calls for execution, for life imprisonment on desolate worlds, echoed off the chamber walls. He stepped forward, his voice cutting through the clamor. "I understand your anger, believe me, I felt it too. But if we let it consume us, we're no better than Ymir." The chamber fell silent. Roger continued, his words measured and heavy. "I saw the pain in his eyes, the loss that drove him to this. His people, his world were taken from him. By us, by humans." He paused, letting the weight of that sink in. "We have a chance here, not just to punish, but to heal, to show the Talaxians and ourselves that there's another way, a path of redemption, of purpose." For a long moment the council members were still. Then slowly nods of agreement began to spread. In the end, they chose mercy. The Talaxians would be given a chance to atone, to rebuild under the watchful eye of the council. And Roger and Max, the human soldiers who had shown them a different path, would lead the way. But even as they set to work, guiding the Talaxians towards a new future, a new challenge emerged. Max, the boy whose powers had grown beyond imagining, began to struggle. In quiet moments, Roger would find him sitting alone, his small frame shaking, his eyes wild. "I can't control it, Dad," Max whispered one night, tears streaming down his face. It's too much. I'm scared I'll hurt someone. Roger held him close, his heart breaking. He had given his son this power, this burden. Now he had to find a way to help him bear it. He turned to the council, pleading for their aid. They convened in somber tones, debating long into the night. When they finally called Roger and Max before them, their faces were grave. "There is a place," the High Counselor said, "a world on the edge of known space. There Max can learn to master his abilities, to reach his full potential." Roger's heart leapt, then sank as the counselor continued. "But he must go alone. The training is arduous, all-consuming. It will take years, perhaps a lifetime, and you, Roger, are needed here. Earth and the Talaxians will look to you for guidance in the days to come." In that moment, Roger felt torn asunder. His duty, his calling, pulled him one way, his love for his son the other. In the end, there was no choice. He knelt before Max, his hands on the boy's shoulders, his eyes wet with unshed tears. "You're going to do great things, son. You're going to be a light in the darkness, a guardian for the innocent, just like you've always been for me." Max nodded, his small face resolute even as his lip trembled. "I'll make you proud, Dad, I promise." They embraced, holding each other as if they could stop time, could hold back the tide of destiny. Then, with a final, fierce squeeze, they let go. Roger watched as Max boarded the sleek council ship, his small form dwarfed by the towering aliens around him. He watched until the ship was a speck in the sky, until it winked out of existence, carrying his heart with it. The years passed in a blur of work and longing. Roger threw himself into the Talaxian reintegration, into forging bonds between Earth and the myriad races of the Council. Under his guidance, humanity stepped forward onto the galactic stage, a voice for unity, for hope. But always in the quiet moments, his thoughts turned to Max, to the boy he had held, the man he hoped he'd become. And so when the Council ship landed on Earth decades later, Roger was there. His hair gray, his face lined, but his eyes still sharp. The ramp lowered, and a figure emerged, tall and broad, clad in the robes of a council master. But beneath the trappings of power, Roger saw the boy he'd always known. "Max," he breathed, his voice cracking. "Dad," Max said, and then they were in each other's arms, laughing and crying all at once. They talked long into the night, of the years apart, of the challenges faced and overcome. Max spoke of his training, of the worlds he'd seen and the beings he'd met. Roger spoke of Earth, of the alliance he'd helped build. And as the dawn broke over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of hope and promise, Roger knew that his journey and Max's was far from over. There would be new threats to face, new battles to fight. But they would face them together, father and son, for they were the guardians of the galaxy, the shield against the darkness. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.